What's up, guys? Welcome to GoGo Motor YouTube channel. So this is going to be part 2 of a two-part video that I did outlining the various work that I did on my BMW Z4 to 3.0i. In the previous video, I was talking to you all about all the work that I did to the engine of the M54 that the car comes equipped with. So I hope you enjoyed that. And then in addition to doing the engine work that you saw in that video, I also ended up replacing my rear suspension. So the rear suspension on the car when I bought it with close to 90,000 miles was not in great shape. The bump stock was falling down. The car was just very stiff, and I knew that suspension was going to be one of those things that would have to be replaced in a relatively short order. I've had the car now for 5 years, but I don't drive it that much. It's my third car, so I haven't really put too much miles on since first purchasing it. So, but I knew it was something that I was going to have to do. And what I also discovered is that the previous owner had installed the Bilstein shocks on the car. The front suspension had like the Bilstein B6 shocks, but for some reason he ended up keeping the old sports package stock suspension in the rear. And I think that kind of created a little bit of a lack of balance in the car. And I knew that it was one of those things we gotta get that. We have to get that rectified, and more importantly, we have to make sure that if we've got B6 Bilsteins in the front, we need to have B6 Bilsteins in the back. So that's what we ended up doing. Is we ended up replacing the old suspension that was pretty much shot, and I'll show you a video here in a little bit, kind of showing the state of the suspension that made the car like super stiff to drive in the back, just not comfortable at all. And ended up replacing that with the B6s. And the B6s are so far so good. I'll show you some videos.
Shock doesn't even return.
With the B6s, and the B6s are so far so good. I'll show you some videos of what that looks like. They've significantly improved the ride quality in the car. I mean, the car is just much more comfortable to drive, but it's also not, there's no sacrificing the performance of the car. The car corners just as well, if not better, probably better than it did before. The one thing that I did notice though with the Bilsteins, with the ones in the back, is that the car is sitting a little bit higher now than before, so there's a wheel gap, which I'm not a fan of at all. My first BMW 328i, I didn't have a sports suspension on it, and that was my mistake. I should have bought it with a sports suspension, but that car had a pretty big wheel gap. So the installation of the B6s in the back has sort of resulted in a bigger wheel gap than was present in the car before. My mechanic tells me that this is normal. Especially when you have new suspension, and that the car will settle over time, so it's going to look better. But I think right now it's not, it's not ideal. But anyway, I'll show you some videos of that so Joe can take a look at that. So, but So, but overall, the car just now with the rear suspension that matches the front suspension, i.e. the Bilstein B6s, the car just drives much better and is much more comfortable and composed on the road. The other thing, and I may make another video specifically related to this, but is when I first bought my 2003 BMW Z4, I ended up installing, the car needed new bushings, and I did. I installed the new bushings, and they were, I guess they were the Ledford brand. I think that's what it's called, Ledford. It's it's not identical to like the OEM bushings that you find on the Z4, but it's like it's a pretty comparable equivalent to the stock bushings that come equipped in that car. And when we were doing all this work on my Z4, my mechanic discovered that those bushings, the front bushings, were shot in 8,000 miles, like 8,000 miles of driving, and they were completely destroyed. The rings were falling out. And so so the previous car mechanic that did that work for me, they treated me right. They said, yes, even though you're out of warranty on that part, we're going to go ahead and replace the bushings. So, props to them. Thank you for that. But I asked them they were going to put the same bushings that I had in the car before, which is those Ledford bushings, which was obviously I didn't want to do that because they broke down after 8,000 miles with the Z4. And speaking with my current mechanic, who is really into modifying and just knows his stuff really well, he recommended these Flex, it's like Flex power bushings, and I may put a link to those on in my channel, or I might just show you a picture of what those look like here, but he said, based on his experience with the Z4s in particular, just given how stiff the ride is in those cars, he recommended for me to use those bushings in the front, and because those are pretty much the only ones that are gonna do a good job of holding up to just the suspension, how the car drives every day. So we got rid of those Ledford bushings and put these Flex bushings, and the car drives pretty well. Like, I mean, I think it's the right fit. I mean, I don't want to compliment it too much because I haven't spent enough time driving the car, and I certainly don't know how long those are going to hold up. But I mean, I think the whole expectation is they're going to hold up for a long time, like at least like 50, 60, 70,000 miles. So I'll keep you posted on kind of my ownership experience with that. But that was, in addition to the rear suspension, I ended up having to, again, replace the front bushings. Hopefully these new front bushings are going to hold up better. But the car just drives a lot better now. It's just much more composed. I think that was one of the complaints that I had with the car when I first got it, is that it just didn't feel as composed on the road as my 3 Series does. So I think in many ways some of those things have been rectified. They're still not perfect. Probably what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put those same bushings that I have in the front in the back with the rear suspension, and my front tire is also cupping a little bit, so I'm going to probably put brand new tires in the front because I just installed brand new tires in the back. And when I do that, I mean, I think the car's pretty much going to be back to new. I mean, everything on it has been replaced. I've got the new convertible top, the motors, at least I don't have the top, but the motors. I've got new rear suspension. I've got new bushings in the front. I've got new brake pads in the back. Have new tires in the back. All the belts have been replaced. All the oil leaks have been fixed. New water pump, new thermostat. I mean, the car is just ready to go, and I'm excited about that. So, looks like I'll be keeping the Z4 for a long time, and that means you guys will get to see plenty of more videos on that corner. Thanks so much for tuning in. Subscribe, leave a comment below. Stay tuned for more videos. Thanks, guys.